Our first presenter is Dominic Pontoriero. He is a graduate research assistant here at CUTR. His graduate studies in geography and urban planning, coupled with his undergraduate work in international business and management information systems, led him to work on the Public Involvement Performance Measurement project here at CUTR. Along with public involvement, Dominic's areas of interest include urban design, social and environmental justice, transportation systems, and public transportation. He is highly proficient at making sense of and organizing data, and he also provides geographic information system support to CUTR. Our second presenter is Jeff Kramer. Jeff is a senior research associate with CUTR here at USF in Tampa. His research primarily focuses on public involvement and MPO policy, planning, and processes. He has published numerous papers and articles focusing on various aspects of transportation planning, including public involvement performance measurement, and he's a member of the TRB Committee on Public Involvement in Transportation. He's currently the principal investigator for a project with the Florida Department of Transportation to develop a database tool to assist Environmental Management Office project managers to assess the effectiveness of their public involvement activities using performance indicators. So I'd like to welcome Dominic and Jeff and turn the time over to them.
All right, Jen, thank you. This is Jeff Kramer. I'll kick this off. I'm the PI, principal investigator, working on this project developing public involvement performance measurement framework and the application, the tool. The tool itself, it will be the primary focus of today's discussion. My job is basically to give you a little bit of background and then get out of the way so that Dominic can tell you more about the tool. So to start, a little bit of background. How did this all come about? A few years ago, we conducted an assessment of the practice of public involvement in Florida. We talked to all the DOT districts in the central office, folks in a variety of offices, design, construction, environmental management, planning, as well as MPOs. And we recorded, it was just to get a baseline, what was happening out there. And among the things that we found, and one of the recommendations we made was that at the time there was no formal evaluation methods looking at desired outcomes of public involvement. So basically there was no way for the folks that we talked to know how it was going. And the idea and the recommendation was to create this formal evaluation methodology focusing on outcomes that would help DOT and other transportation professionals, public involvement professionals, get a sense of how things were going. So following that, we were asked to, by DOT to go ahead and work on a creation of performance measures to evaluate the effectiveness of public involvement activities in Florida. And the real role was to develop a systematic methodology for a framework, if you will, to evaluate public involvement practices, and to then make that available to DOT. It was and other agencies who were interested in that. That's actually posted on the DOT website on the public involvement page. The results of that research, and what we did is we public involvement framework that what we found from our research when we went out there and looked, and frankly we looked nationwide, and really nobody was really doing this, not in really systematic format. So what we found in conducting the research is you really needed to be not measuring for measuring's sake, but rather to achieve an overarching goal. So we worked through a working group process, had a number of public involvement practitioners from around the state working with us to create this structure of goal, objectives, indicators, and targets, kind of nested together in order to kind of get a sense of how folks were doing. And then the idea would be to then release this to the DOT districts for the Environmental Management Office during the project development and environment process during the primary public involvement phase for DOT projects as an internal and voluntary management effort so that they can make strategic changes in their approaches and just see how it's going on a variety of vectors. Again, this was primarily focused at outcome-based measures, not just output. So the goal that was created focused basically in two parts. First was to ensure that anybody who was interested in taking advantage of opportunities to participate in the decision-making process they were able to do so, and that then the agency, the DOT, would fully consider the public input that they received. So that's the goal, again, broken in two parts. So we broke that goal into objectives, being subcomponents of the agency goal. The first three basically deal with that first part of making sure that everybody who wants to be involved can be involved. We broke those into three objectives: equity, making sure that everybody, every agency, every stakeholder, every organization, every person who wanted to be able to participate had equal access to the decision-making process, that providing information that's early and continuous and is clear and understandable. There's enough of it, but not an overwhelming amount, and that it was free of jargon and able to be understood by the public. And then that methods would look at providing public involvement opportunities using a variety of techniques, a variety of methods to reach out and get people engaged. And then responsiveness. That's dealing with the second part of the goal, which was to what are you going to do with the agency's role in what it would do with the input it received and how it treated it and how it told the stakeholders who became involved what they did with that input. So underneath objectives are indicators and targets. The indicators, again, in these four objective areas, are variables used to really measure your progress toward any one of these objectives. You want several indicators under the objectives to give you a full sense of how things are going, and that's really the underlying performance framework of the tool. And then the targets are specific measurable criteria for evaluating your indicator. And I'll give you an example here. This one was under the equity objective. It would look at access to information and participation opportunities by persons with disabilities. And then under that were sort of two targets. The 100% are in brackets because it's a voluntary process. Every district would set their own target. So the 100% is just filler here. It's they can put whatever they want in their bracket. And the target would be that people who requested their accommodations were satisfied with the efforts made to accommodate their needs, and that meetings, events, and other project-related information sources were accessible to people with disabilities. That's more of a measure of that the project manager would complete. So a mixture of data sources that are required to answer, and there are numerous indicators and several targets under each indicator for each objective. So that gives you basic background on the performance measurement framework that was developed. And then after the performance measurement framework was put together, we were asked, well, let's see if we can make this easier for the districts to collect data, organize the data, and then kind of make sense of what was coming in through some sort of reporting mechanism internally for voluntary management purposes. And so we started work on a tool to help do that. And I'm going to move to the next slide and let Dominic take over from here. Dom, are you there?
Thanks, Jeff. Can you hear me? That I unmuted properly? Yes.
Sure can.
Thanks. our next challenge in this project was creating a tool that was comprehensive, that could incorporate all of the indicators that Jeff had mentioned, and was pretty, was easy to use and easy to implement. Something that could facilitate data collection and analysis during this environmental assessment phase of with public involvement. We wanted to make something that had low security risks and that was not web-based, something that could be easily installed on FDOT computers. And we wanted something that was robust and versatile, and we decided to make an application in Microsoft Access using a combination of various programming languages. And this was an optimal solution because Microsoft Access provided us with something that most FDOT employees would be already familiar with using, the interface, but also something that was low security risk, something that was cost effective, and of course something that was not web-based, something that was desktop oriented. So our first step in developing an application to incorporate these indicators was translating the indicators that had been formulated in the previous studies that Jeff mentioned into a language that could be turned into an application or a database. And so here we have what's known as an entity relationship diagram, and in this diagram we basically considered the data needs that would be necessary in order to incorporate those indicators, and these are different tables that would be created to form the basis of the application that we were developing. What we came up with was a fairly intuitive application that could collect and store data through a combination of surveys and also internal data for the project. It quantified public involvement activities, and it also compares the results to targets that could be set by the district or by a project manager. And now what I want to do is step into the application that we developed, so you can see what we've made and how it works. Once you launch the application, this is what you'll be presented with. We try to make the application as intuitive and user-friendly as possible. So you're presented first with a welcome screen, which is great for first users, but also provides useful shortcuts. So if you're a returning user, you can access several screens using this welcome screen as well. And also you'll notice in the upper right-hand corner there's a help button which we place on every screen in case the user gets stuck or needs some guidance. If you look at the top, you'll notice that there's a navigation ribbon. All screens in the application can be accessed using this navigation ribbon. So one of the first screens that you might want to access when using this application might be to enter details for a project. So for example, you would use this navigation ribbon to access that screen. So clicking this button will bring up a drop-down menu, and you can choose whether to enter projects for details for a new project or enter details for a project that's already been entered in the tool. So in this simulation, we're going to go ahead and enter details for a new project, and this will bring up this screen here. And we use the project financial management number to organize all the projects in this application. We found by consulting FDOT employees that, especially in the PD&E phase that we were interested in, the financial management number is how they organize the projects. And so we formed a tool in that same manner, that everything is organized that way. And of course, as you can see on the screen, you also have other relevant information for the project. Some of this information is to help organize the project amongst other projects in the application. But some of the information that's entered here actually goes towards calculating performance measures. So down here, if you look, indicating whether a study area includes a non-English speaking population activates some of the English as a second language indicators in the application for that particular project. You can also enter in zip codes so that later as you're using the application, you can generate a survey for a particular zip code, and the application will generate questions based on projects that are relevant to that particular zip code. Now, the PIPM tool can generate reports that compare your progress against targets that you can set yourself. And this screen here shows where you can enter targets that you can set for your projects. And as you can see, each one is separated by and coded by indicator. So the targets that you see listed on the left, E1A, E1B, E2A, we use these codes so that you can easily refer to the help document that we provided that I'll show later, so you can reference any supplemental material if you're having any trouble or need help coming up with an appropriate target. And then, of course, the description to the right allows you to just fill it in right there. And you can set targets per year. So every year you can change the targets a bit, or you can choose to keep them the same depending on your goals. On this screen here, I'm showing the project report that can be generated. So this report here shows the progress for a particular project against the targets that you set. So here, if you look down these columns here, you'll see that there are percentages based on your performance on each of these indicators, and on the right are the targets that you set yourself. So it's an effective tool for self-evaluating, seeing how effective your own practices are, and seeing where you could use some improvement. One of the other major reports that we developed in this application, we called an indicator chart. And basically, this report shows your progress per indicator across several projects. You can choose all projects, or it can also be filtered by selecting specific data. You can filter to see a certain type of class of project, for example. And this report shows this graph, but also has a brief description, which is cut off right now, as to what this is showing and how the application came to this graph, how it generated it, what data it was using. And one of the last things I wanted to show you was the resources that we've included in the PIPM tool. Up on the top, you'll see the navigation ribbon for this resource tab. Includes a variety of resources, many of which are interactive PDF documents that include previous studies, as well as a user guide that we developed, which I'll go ahead and show you right now. The user guide that we developed for this application is interactive. It's part user manual and also part reference document. So half of this guidance document shows you screen by screen how to use the application. Actually, there's an example right here in the bottom right-hand corner of one of the pages that shows step by step, what each field on this screen means and what data to enter. Much of the rest of the user of this guidance document is reference material. It goes detail into each of the indicators. It has suggestions and tips, data collection methods, indicator details, and anything else that we thought might be helpful to the user to effectively use the application to measure public involvement, how effective their public involvement is. And of course, we also included an appendix that shows what each button means on each screen, just in case the user is ever confused. They can always refer to the button. So our priority was to make this application as easy to use as possible, as effective, as intuitive as possible, and to try to make it so that it's effective, so you can measure your own public involvement efforts. It is an internal based. It is for internal use only. So we want to make it so that they can explore all the aspects of the tool and use it as they see fit. Once the application was developed, we beta tested it in 2 FDOT districts. They used the PIPM tool in a true setting. They used data from real projects, and they gave us feedback based on their experience. We let them use it for about 9 months, and then we had some detailed debriefings. The feedback that they gave us was very useful, and what we did was we ended up incorporating most of their comments into revisions that we made in the PIPM tool. We also had a practitioner review. We had various professionals use the PIPM tool briefly to play around with it and then get a feel for it, and they also gave us feedback on their initial impressions. So we made sure that we weren't creating an application that professionals who would be using it would be uncomfortable using. We wanted to make it as comfortable and intuitive as possible. We looked at the recommendations, we included them in revisions, which we just finished the revisions phase of the PIPM tool. We tailored the application as best as we could, and we provided appropriate guidance. And the PIPM tool should be released in upcoming months for voluntary implementation by the Florida Department of Transportation. We also developed some computer-based tutorials to help to help acclimate users to using the PIPM tool. That concludes the presentation. I kind of wanted to give an introduction to what we've developed and how we developed the PIPM tool. If you have any questions, feel free to forward them to Jennifer at this time. And the link up there links to our project manager's web page, which shows various resources, including some of the studies that Jeff had mentioned in the beginning of this presentation.
Thanks, Dominic, for that presentation. I'll go ahead and load the slide that gives you a reminder of how to ask questions, if you have any at this point. We do have a couple of questions that have come in, so I'll go ahead and get started with those. Is your application authenticated, or does it have a digital signature?
Yes, it does, actually. We went through the trouble of making sure the application was digitally signed, and what that means basically is that if this application, no matter what computer this application is opened on, it is considered a trusted application. So a third party that is designated by Microsoft stepped in and said, gave us the authority to sign it, saying that it's trusted, that it's not an application that could be harmful to your computer, so that there would be no security issues when run on any computer.
Okay, thanks. Another question, will the MS Access framework be something shared with the participants so that they may customize for other programs?
Yes, in the user guide that we released with the PIPM tool, it's noted that it is an MS Access based application. We're not trying to hide anything from the users. So in the future, if if the Department of Transportation, Florida Department of Transportation, wanted to make any edits, any adjustments, they can. And we've also provided them with a report that outlines our planning process and our development process prior to creating the PIPM tool.
Right. Can I add to this? This is Jeff. I want to add the framework itself, the performance measures and the indicators, the goals, the objectives. That's really the key. That everything everything is hinged on here. And so the tool that was developed was really built for the DOT's Environmental Management Office and takes into account some of the specific needs for that agency and their own purpose. For example, the FM numbers and the ability to filter by project manager or by class of action for whether it's a categorical exclusion or an environmental impact statement required, an EA, etc. So transferring the tool as it is now to, I don't know, maybe a transit agency or an MPO would be you know, it wouldn't be an exact match for them, but it is the ability to reprogram the access tool is there. So you would have to contact DOT or us at USF to discuss further how that might happen. I'd also want to add something that was missed a little bit in a little bit of additional documentation is we also helped to revise Chapter 10 of the Public Involvement Handbook, the DOT's Public Involvement Handbook, looking at performance measures. And it doesn't really make specific reference to the tool here, but it does discuss the methodology or the concept of using measures and trying to look at outcome-based indicators that help you kind of get a sense of how things are going.
Thanks, Jeff. Another question that we've received is, do you provide any training for using the PIPM tool?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. Actually, in the PIPM tool, apart from all the supplemental material we included, the guidance document, we also created a series of video tutorials that can be accessed from within the PIPM tool, and we'll also provide them in a folder. And there's, I believe, 9 different videos that explain using the tool and actually go into the tool, so they can be so the user can be acclimated or in essence trained on the PIPM tool through those video tutorials.
Right. I would also add there the help button that Dominic showed earlier is within the tool is connected to the guidance document, and it brings you directly to the part of the guidance document that addresses the specific page of the tool that you're on. So you don't have to hunt through the table of contents, or it takes you right to where you want to go.
Great, thanks. We've received another question. It says, is it possible for other DOTs to get a copy of the tool for evaluation? This attendee is from Oregon DOT. Right.
This is Jeff. It's actually since it was created with for this FDOT for this particular DOT, there's a joint copyright on it between the DOT and USF. So you'd have to reach out to us and you know, to make arrangements to make it available. It's basically so that the public funding, the DOT's dollars in putting this together aren't exploited for private purposes someplace else. So I guess the short answer is not immediately available to other DOTs, but certainly arrangements could be made to that effect.
Sure, thanks. Another question, how did you make the navigation ribbon in the tool? It seems to be very customized.
The navigation ribbon at the top of the PIPM tool if you've used Microsoft 2010 or later, it may be familiar to you, but we did create it in XML using the we try to make it as similar to the Microsoft Office application navigation ribbon as possible, but it is completely customized. It was made completely just for the PIPM tool.
By Dominic, I might add, who did all this work, so I appreciate that a lot.
Thanks.
Okay, well, I would like to thank both of you. I don't see any other questions. We'll just give it another second for anyone to type in their questions. Feel free to continue to do that. I do want to thank Dominic and Jeff for presenting today. Just a brief reminder before we go that our next webcast is 2 weeks from today, and our topic will be the Airport Cooperative Research Program, presented by Michael Audino and Bill Johnson. So we hope you can return in 2 weeks to join us for that. Also, we'll be applying for AICP continuing maintenance credit for this webcast through the American Planning Association. So I know there are, we typically have many members who are, or many attendees who are AICP members who want to know about that information. So you'll need to complete the evaluation, and I'll load that in just a moment. So seeing no other questions, we'd like to ask for your feedback and your comments on this webcast, as well as suggestions for future topics. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. So once again, thank you for your attendance and your participation. I hope you have a great afternoon.